All right, here we go. Quick practices for Unit 2. So for Lesson 1, we're reviewing the patterns of zeros and ones. And so this would just be, you can use the pointer if you'd like. I'm going to use my other pointer here. And students are saying and showing. So boys and girls, read it with me. 1 times 4. Read it with groups of. 1 group of 4. Class. Think about it. Class 4. Boys and girls. 8 times 0. Or 8 groups of 0. Think about it. Class 0. So we're going to say it chorally and we're going to show the answer with our fingers. So 0 times 0, groups of 6. Think about it. Class 0. So you can talk about patterns from this, but this one should go pretty quickly because it's just reinforcing what we've learned about zeros and ones. Then we go to quick practice for lessons 2 and 3, and it's going to follow the same format that we used when we did the quick practices for Unit 1. Okay, so here we go. The student leader would point, and everyone else is using their fingers in the camera, or if you're face to face, everyone's responding. 1 times 6 equals 6. 2 times 6 equals 12. 3 times 6 equals 18. And we're just going to go down the path, so on and so forth. Then we're going to do count bys, don't look. So first I'm going to say the count bys, and everyone can look. Boys and girls, let's do our count bys. And again, our fingers are going to be used. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. Now, I want you to remember that it is fun to sing songs when we have songs that go to certain tunes, and like we have our Sixes song. It's like, I don't know, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or whatever. No big problems with that, other than it can't be the only way that students remember their count bys, because if that's the only way they remember their count bys, when we start to do that 5 shortcut and we're adding on, and I do, let's just say 6 times 6, and I need to know 6 times 5 first, so many students have to re-sing the song just to remember 6 times 5. We don't want that to be the case. We want them to know that after 30 comes 36. So practicing the count bys even outside of the song, or I want you to count by sixes starting at 30. Right? Then they'll practice counting from a count by on and not having to start all the way from the beginning. Then we get to now where they're going to say their count bys without looking. So now they can close their eyes, or as you see here, I have a rectangle covering up the answers. So now it's boys and girls, say your count bys. Again, it's going to be with their fingers. 6, 12, 18. The next slide is students saying them half and half. So I'm going to point to this half of the class. They say 6. That half of the class, 12, 18, 24. I like to have students stand up and sit down each time it's their turn, just to get some movement and a brain break. But we're just repeating the count bys now by alternating. So now we're going to read the equation, 6 times 6, and we're going to count by the multiplier of 6. So down here you can see when I give the signal count by 6, raising one more finger with each count up to the multiplier of 6. Where do we stop? We stop at 6 fingers. So we have 6 groups of 6. So let's put up 6 fingers. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. Boys and girls, read it with me. 7 times 6, or 7 groups of 6. So now we're going to count up, but we're going to count at the multiplier, and the multiplier is 7. Ready? 6, 12, 18. So we're going to count all the way till we get to 7, and we know we're going to stop because that's 7. Now, I personally like to have them already have up the 7 fingers, so we're not also keeping track of how many we've counted, but I'll leave that up to you. And so we would continue that pattern. But next we go into not knowing the other factor. So factor, factor, product. This would be the product, factor, factor, and the division. Boys and girls, read it with me. 36 divided by 6. And now we're going to have to use the counting up strategy. Ready? 6, 12, 18, 24. And we would stop when we got to 36. What's our other factor? 6. Let's try 42 divided by 6. Ready? Count. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42. Did we get to our product? Yes. What's our other factor? 7. I'd probably even add here, now, say it as a turnaround fact. 42 divided by 6 equals 7 because 7 times 6 equals 42. You could always add that piece of let's rehearse the entire expression now with the answer, and then say it again with the inverse operation. You get to lesson 3, and we're going to continue the same work, but now we're 1 times 6, so it's the same thing. Everything is the same. This all feels the same. We do our groups of, and we do our division. So nothing really changed here. Let's go to lessons 4 and 5. So now we're on our eighths. 1 times 8 equals 8. 2 times 8 equals 16. We do the same thing. Let's say all of our count bys using our fingers. Let's say our count bys without looking. Now let's say it half and half the class. Now let's do it with counting on using the multiplier. So 6 times 8, or 6 groups of 8. Let's put up 6 fingers and let's count by sixes, or count by eights. 8, 12, or 8, 16, 24, etc. Then you'll do it with division, the same thing. You'll notice by lesson 5, now we're doing all of the same. You have the equations again, lesson 6 to 8. Now we're on our sevens, so they will practice with their sevens. And I think lesson 7 and 8, let's see what happens. We're going to count by sevens, same idea. Lesson 8, you can return to any of these and do them again. And then lesson 9 to 10, we're going to do our 5 shortcuts. Okay, so let's dive into our 5 shortcuts. Class, when I say the multiplication equation, you say the product. 5 times 6, think about it. Class, 30. Boys and girls, what's the 5 shortcut? If I read this, I get 5 groups of 6. I don't know 5 groups of 6, but I know 5 times 5, 25. Add another 5, 30. Boys and girls, I can do 6 times 6. I have 6 groups of 6. I don't know 6 groups of 6, but I know 5 groups of 6 is 30. Count up, 36. Right? So 7 times 6, class, 42. Boys and girls, show me 7 times 6. I don't know 7 groups of 6. I do know 5 groups of 6 is 30. Count up, 36, 42. So what's complicated about that is remembering what we're counting by, which is why I always rephrase it as 5 groups of 6. 6 groups of 6. 6 groups of 6, I don't know. 5 groups of 6, I know. We're counting by sixes. So even for 5 times 6, I just showed it with 5 groups of 6. It would actually be this. Let's do 5 groups of 6. And we just know that 5 groups of 6, class, 30. 6 groups of 6, 30, 36. 7 groups of 6, 30, 36, 42. So I think I did it opposite when I first showed you 5 times 6. Now we're going to go into easy, medium, and let's dive here. Class, when I say the multiplication equation, you say the product. 5 times 6, think about it. Class, 30. Boys and girls, what's the 5 shortcut? If I read this, I get 5 groups of 6. I don't know 5 groups of 6, but I know 5 times 5, 25. Add another 5, 30. Boys and girls, I can do 6 times 6. I have 6 groups of 6. I don't know 6 groups of 6, but I know 5 groups of 6 is 30. Count up, 36. Right? So 7 times 6, class, 42. Boys and girls, show me 7 times 6. I don't know 7 groups of 6. I do know 5 groups of 6 is 30. Count up, 36, 42. So what's complicated about that is remembering what we're counting by, which is why I always rephrase it as 5 groups of 6. 6 groups of 6. 6 groups of 6, I don't know. 5 groups of 6, I know. We're counting by sixes. So even for 5 times 6, I just showed it with 5 groups of 6. it would actually be this. Let's do 5 groups of 6, and we just know that 5 groups of 6, class, 30. 6 groups of 6, 30, 36. 7 groups of 6, 30, 36, 42. So I think I did it opposite when I first showed you 5 times 6. Now we're going to go into easy, medium, and let's dive here. This is just rehearsal now. Boys and girls, I'll read the expression. You tell me the product. 5 times 5, class, 25. 6 times 9, class, 54. So you want to give them some time to think about it. These are ones that we're trying to work on to create automaticity. These are facts that are generally easier for students because they have more ease with 5s and 2s. 9s, they have their 9s trick. Or they can say I multiplied it by 10 and I subtracted another group. So that's why these tend to be on the easier side. These ones tend to be on the more difficult side, not easy, because they use things like our 3s and our 4s, which aren't as simple as our 5s and our 2s. So if I were you, I would actually go through these, but then have students not just recall them, but choose 1 or 2 of them to turn into a number talk. So for example, I would do 6 times 9. Boys and girls, you just told me it was 54. I need you to show me 3 ways you could solve this if you didn't know it was 54. And turn it into a conversation of, Sarah says, well, I counted 6 groups of 9. I counted, did this, see here, 6 groups of 9. I don't know 6 groups of 9, but I know 5 groups of 9. I did the 5 shortcut, and she shows us the 5 shortcut. John says, I just counted by 9 6 times. 9, 18, and he shows us how he counted. Someone else said, I drew a picture. So we want to honor the thinking and where students are at, but they need to have something in their back pocket that they're constantly practicing that's not just know the answer. So do we want them just to know it? We do, but we don't want to forget about flexibility. So that's not in the directions here, but if I were you, I'd probably capitalize on that and turn it into a number talk once they practice their fast and easy facts. Then you get to the same practice that we've been doing previously, where 6 times 6, 6 groups of 6, let's count by 6. But notice that the multiplier is changing, right? And the known factor is not. So we know that it's 6. We're counting by 6, okay? But the multiplier is 6. We're counting by 6s, but the multiplier is 7. You do it with division, and we continue so on and so forth. So we go again, 11 through 13. Now we're going to go do the 5s trick again. We're going to practice easy and medium facts. Now we're going to practice counting on or counting by using 8 as our multiplier. So our 6, 7s, and 8s are always our toughest, and so going through these together would be beneficial to students. When I do 80, like slide 80, 81 here, I think you can do 6 groups of 8. We have 6 groups of 8, let's count by 8s. But then I would also repeat this slide with the 5 shortcut, because they're not getting enough practice with the 5 shortcut here. So this one's supposed to be 5 shortcut, this one's supposed to be count bys. I would probably do count bys here and then repeat the slide using the 5 shortcut. Then we get to this slide, 48 divided by 8. Boys and girls, let's find the unknown factor. Boys and girls, count up by 8s, and we're going to count up. Or I can go quickly. Let's do the 5 shortcut. Well, I know 8 times 5 is 40, right? 48. That's easier to count up if I use the 5 shortcut. 56 divided by 8. So let's say I know that 8 groups of 5 is 40. Let's count up to 56. 58 or 48. 56. So that will continue, just getting them all mixed up. There's another one with 8s. There's another one with 8s. Then we go to our 7s. You'll see several examples there. Just building automaticity, and that's the end of your quick practices for this unit. So we're practicing saying it. We're practicing our count bys. We're practicing the 5 shortcut. This is about choral response. So good luck as you use these with your students. You can project it. You can use your multiplication chart. But I hope that these help you get started. Enjoy!